Shalom. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash, and double honors to our elders and apostles of great millstone that taught us his truth. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful like Akim, teaching and preaching his truth with all righteousness and sincerity. This is Akai Wasap with another edition of news, prophecies, and global events. And as always, our lessons, our sit downs, our street speaking is for the remnant, the elect, the Israel of the Most High, and teach the gospel preached. All right. And, with these lessons, the trend has been pretty much going into the economic health of, the world, because at the end of the day, there's a new financial system being ushered in. All right. The CBD, the central banking digital currencies. All right. That's the new phase. That's pretty much the new thing which is really not new, but this is what the global elites want to push out. At the end of the day, the implantable technology, all right, Revelation 13:16 on down, is what they want to push out, is what they want to try to fulfill. And a part of the global elites wanting to achieve, this NWO, they have to paint the picture that there's a recession. They have words like hyperinflationary period. They had these different terms, going into, the health of, the economy. You got the debt and financial crisis, cost of living crisis, these different shortages. You got the bottlenecking at the ports where it's, causing goods and services to be limited. And actually, what I've been finding out lately is that there's been an influx of, these different, Walmart, Target, Costco's, or these major, box stores receiving an influx of these shipping containers. That's why we're seeing a large amount of, product, at these stores. I was at Walmart the other day, and it seemed like things were just falling off the shelves. There was just so much stuff there, but it's just they're now receiving some of those ship containers, that was backlogged at the ports. And continuing on with the economic health, you got bankruptcies, business closures. You have major crypto currency. They call it platforms, tanking. Is being found out that there was some fraudulent activities going on. Of course, high grocery bills, high gas. The pretty much, the constant things that we go into. So I got a list of different things that's going on in the world. And then, of course, we're going to make them to the prophecies. All right. And Lord willing, it be edifying. So let's go ahead and start off with a precept. We'll go to 2nd Esdras, the 9th chapter, because as prophets, men of the Lord, we are watching the different things that's going on in the world. All right. We made them to the prophecies, and we, give the warnings out to the sheep. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 9, verse 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I've told thee before. Now, how do we measure the time? We look at the different things that's going on in the world, made it to the prophecies, and that let us know what time and season that we're in. And we're at the time where Esau is going to come down with great wrath, Revelation 12:12. We're at the time where he's going to cause all, both small and great, both rich and poor, to receive the MRK. We're at the time where it's going to be Jacob's trouble and civil unrest, chaos, the love of many waxing cold, great tribulation. We're at the time of wars, rumors of wars and threats of wars. We're at the time of famine. We're at the time of pestilence. We're at the time where righteous man is standing in great boldness before the face of those that have made no account of his labor. So we in the time where the scriptures call the latter days, the end of the end times. All right. And as it says here, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, so you got to be paying attention. You got to be on your watch. All right. It says, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And one of the ways that he visits the world is through different weather, catastrophes, the hurricanes, the tsunamis, the whirlwinds, these fires, all right, so on and so forth. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes, all right, you can add natural, so-called weather phenomena, natural disasters, and upwards of the people in the world. You got a lot of people striking, different industries, different companies, their employees are striking because they're not earning a livable wage. With inflation being at an all-time high, the cost of rental properties is at an all-time high. Energy cost is at an all-time high. People want to be paid enough to be able to sustain, some type of lifestyle. People's working full-time jobs, working 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week, and then they still got to do a little app-based job to make ends meet. So just this whole economy is just crumbling. And like I said, through the spirit, it's in the elite's agenda to push that vibration out. All right. And Lord willing, we'll get into some of those precepts. So that's a part of the upwards, people rising up out here in California. You had the Orange County bus transit system. They went on strike because of the pay. And today, the university colleges, their employees plan to strike because they're not getting paid livable wages. All right. And then I got an article going into, the logistics realm. Their plan, there's layoffs there, there's strikes there. So, this all plays a part in end time prophecy. It says, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So the different things that we see going on today was prophesied, and we seeing them come to pass. So my first article is from Zero Hedge. C.H. Robinson announces largest layoff in the history of freight bookerage. And I'm gonna just read a little bit, and maybe I'll go ahead and post this in the chat so if bros want to, look at it, pick up on it. Zero Hedge. So let's read a little bit. It says, it's not just tech giants and Wall Street firms anymore. As Freight Waves reports, truck brokerage giant C.H. Robertson Worldwide Inc. is laying off between 1,000 to 1,200 employees, most of whom are at the vice president and general manager level, according to sources familiar with the situation. The move, as Freight Waves CEO Craig Fuller reports, might be the largest layoff in the history of freight bookerage, not related to a bankruptcy or acquisition. So what a lot of these companies is doing, these positions of people being general managers and vice presidents, they are paid, so much money, for those positions. So when these companies want to trim the fat, they get to land off these different people, these different positions, and it causes a ripple effect in the company because the amount of work that they was dealing with is going to fall on somebody else that's getting paid less than them. And then that stress is going to accumulate and it's going to cause other problems. All right. And if they're laying off these individuals, all right, that means they're not making a lot of money. With diesel shortages and high diesel costs, it's just affecting these companies tremendously. All right. And, I did a lesson last week going into how the logistics and the 18 wheelers and, these shipping companies is the lifeline of this society. So if we're reading things like, these brokers, because they book loads. If they're laying off certain people, that means money ain't being made behind the scenes. And we get all types of different things, into our cities and our communities, off of these trucking businesses. So um, this can be a domino effect, a potential domino effect for the goods and services and the products that we use on a day to day. So let's see. I want to see if I see something else real quick. Okay, so that's pretty much it. All right. Like I said, Akim, you can read up on it. And I'll read this Twitter post. It says this might be the largest layoff in the history of freight brokerage, not related to bankruptcy or acquisition. It's pretty much the same thing. Going into mid-level management. Okay. The move comes a week after the Edmund Perry, Minnesota-based company, reported weaker than expected third quarter results and strongly hinted at impending labor cost reductions to combat the impact of slowing demand and interest cost and increased costs. We got ahead of ourselves in terms of head count. So they was hiring a lot of people. They was projecting that things will go well for them in the future, but it's not, said Bob Beesterfield, Robinson president of C and CEO, on a cost earnings call. Robinson employs nearly 1,700 people. So, like I said, if they're suffering, um, financially, and this is, the lifeline of this economy, then that spells, danger in the coming months. All right. So let's go to our next article. Another thing I was looking at: auto loan delinquencies rise as pandemic era assistance eases. So during the pandemic, the government was sending out a lot of money. All right. A lot of what is it called? Stimulus checks. It was a lot of eviction or moratoriums happening, and people was taking advantage of it. They had the extra money, and they was able to get, cars, different things, take trips, so on and so forth. So now people are going delinquent on those loans because they paint a picture that everything is going back to so-called normal. So this is another ripple effect in the economy. All right, you got major companies doing layoffs. Now you have, the people getting delinquent on auto loans. And during 2008, that recession, it was the same song and dance. So let's listen to a little bit of this and see what's going on.
Percentage of auto loans that are at least 60 days delinquent hit 1.65% in the third quarter. That's the highest rate that we've seen in over a decade. So yes, it's creeping update, but when you compare it to what we have seen in the past, still those delinquency rates are relatively low when you compare to what we've seen in past economic downturns and also during periods of a recession. I think the big question going forward is whether or not we see a significant slowdown in the jobs market, then of course what that could mean for the sector going forward.
I'm a lot more nervous about that number than you are. Okay. In particular, anecdotally,
right. See, a lot of these news hosts, they want to bring out, this information, but then try to give a little comfort. But like, he just stopped her in her tracks. Look, I'm way more worried about that number than you are. So he's going to break down.
Family in the car business, we own several car dealerships around the country, and they told me often they're not understanding how many people are coming in and buying cars they ordinarily shouldn't be buying, probably under most circumstances cannot afford. And the highest portion of those delinquencies is those people taking advantage of COVID loan accommodation programs. Look at what happened in big tech, right? They overhired during COVID, not seeing what was coming after COVID. I think you're going to see this number get a lot worse, Rochelle, because people bought cars maybe because of COVID cash stimulus that they were getting. They were sitting home. They weren't going out a lot. They had extra money. I fear this number could get a lot worse in the next 6 months.
Yeah. So going back to, he's a economist. So economist's role is to look at the future of the economy, the health of the money, the health of money and currency, the flow of currency, and then they're able to give these different projections moving forward. So he's saying that he see a dark future. All right. This is Ecclesiastes 12:3. In a day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. And I went into this, the keepers of the house, that's the economists, that's the financial advisors, these different individuals that look up the data and the trends and see how things is going forward. When you go into the word economist, goes back to of course economy, and it's household manager, person that manages the house. All right. So when we go back to Ecclesiastes 12:3, it says, in a day when the keepers of the house, household management, shall tremble. And that's what we're seeing on that news clip. You know, I see that the numbers are getting worse. Things is going to get worse in the next 6 months. And the strong men shall bow themselves. That's the army, the military. In fact, just the other day, you had you had Veterans Day, and you had the event where these World War II planes were putting on a show, and they collided and 6 people died. And through the spirit, that is looking, it looks like the American military is weakened. Here it is, the planes colliding and dying, so that old power that they have is no longer strong, and it's through the spirit. Of course, it says, and the strong man shall bow themselves and the grinders cease because there are few. That's these jobs, because that's what's going to end up happening. A lot of these companies is going to start trimming the fat. They're going to start doing these layoffs, these cutoffs, because a lot of the employees, they want, if they're union, they want better contracts, they want more pay, and jobs that aren't union, they want to get unionized. And if they're not wanting to get unionized, they demand a higher pay and threaten to strike. All right. So, a lot of these companies are just going to be laying off people because they can't keep up. With the feds raising the interest rates, it makes it harder to, and not only makes it harder for, regular people like you and I, but it makes it harder for it makes it more expensive for these banks to get for these companies to get loans from the banks. And the money that we get on our paychecks, typically it comes from the company getting loans from the bank to pay us up front, and then when they make the revenue later on, then they'll pay back, the bank, so on and so forth. All right. So, it's just costing these companies a lot of money to run their business. It says, and the grinder cease because there are few, these jobs coming to a screeching halt, becoming few. It says, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. For example, the keepers of the house, when they look out the window, they're trying to look at the future to see, if there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Is it, if there's going to, be a chance that things is going to get better, but it's darkened, meaning they can't see. They seeing that things are just going to get worse. It's not going to get light. It's going to get worse. It's going to get darkened. So let's continue to listen on to this.
Obviously, between the interest rates going up and inflation, we're also seeing people putting a lot more of their debt on credit cards, even for just everyday things, showing that people's finances, those balance sheets, might not be as strong as we think they are. And the fact that it's showing up in these delinquencies, I think that's very troubling.
Very troubling. The keepers of the house, like it says, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Bad news. So all you see is bad news. And we want that. We enjoy that because we know that this is the time where the Lord is going to, start having these prophecies fulfill, which prophecies are fulfilling, but we waiting on that MOTB to come, where, the global markets collapse and they come out with that remedy. All right. That implantable technology and all hell breaking loose. All right. So let's listen to a little bit more of this. And once again, I want to also mention that, if there's auto loan delinquencies, that means that people aren't paying, of course, paying their car notes, and that money is going somewhere else. All right. And I'm going to tell you where it's going to. It's going to groceries. It's going to gas in those cars. Everything costs more. The rents went up. mortgage rates went up. So if you're in the market to buy a house, you could be potentially priced out of the market because the interest rates went higher, and you no longer either qualify for those loans, or those banks are requiring you to put more money down. So you got to go back to written units. You know, people loading up these credit cards, and they already saying in 2023, man, things could be very disastrous. So we're seeing, the beginning of that.
You're not with us, though.
No, I think it's troubling. But what I was saying, I do agree that it's going to get worse, because up until now, when you take a look at how resilient the job market has been, some people that were a little bit over leveraged when it comes to some of the
resilient the job markets, but it's all over, the different reports and news outlets that a lot of these jobs is trimming the fat. Yeah, Elon Musk that acquired Twitter. The first thing he did was send out emails saying that people gotta get up out of here. Major distribution and logistics companies, they're firing they're laying off individuals from their workforce.
their purchases, they have been able to make those monthly payments. But here we have Fed Chair Jay Powell saying time and time again that the labor market needs to weaken. So more people are going to be out of the job, which means their budgets are
out of a job. Going back to what we read in Ecclesiastes 12:3, in a day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, the financial economists, these financial experts, they're trembling. All right, they don't see a prosperous future in the economy of this place. And the strong man bowed themselves, the military. And another report that I did, the military didn't meet their yearly quota with new military recruits. So the military is getting weakened here in Babylon the Great, which is America. And the grinders cease because there are a few of these jobs, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. They don't see a bright future for America. And like I said, behind the scenes, this is the plan of the global elites. In order for them to get this new technology out there and people to accept it and willingly accept it, they got to weaken the economy, and the doors shall be set in the streets. All right, business closures. When the sound of the grinding is low, the work coming to a screeching halt. No jobs out there. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, a man waking up early in the morning looking for work. And the daughters of music shall be brought low. The entertainment, the music, the entertainment, the sports, all this stuff is being brought low because the entertainment was set up to basically be a distraction, to distract you on, things that's actually going on in the society. But it's being brought low. The music is trash. People's finding out that, what football, basketball, the athletes that play in those sports, they're doing sport betting behind the scenes. So the games is rigged, so on and so forth. But, that was that. Let's listen to a little bit more of this.
are a little bit tighter. So I do agree that it's going to get worse. I was just saying, when you compare what we're seeing today, yes, exactly, it's small. It's going to go.
The other
So we're on the same page.
The other segment I'm watching, though, the other domino could be real estate people that bought in 20 or 21 at that market peak, and they could suffer.
Yes.
Housing markets. Come on now. Everything sounds bad. Let's see what the street's saying. What stimulus are you talking about? Yeah, sometimes I like to look at, the comment board and see what they're saying. I ain't see nothing. So now, in other news, you got Northern California sheriff halts daytime patrol service due to staffing shortage. All right. And what does that spells? That spells crime and iniquity soaring. All right. Lord Yahushua said the love of many shall wax cold. Why? Because there's going to be economic pressure. There's going to be all these different, financial woes people experiencing, and they're going to go out. The jack boys is going to go out and get what they need. So let's listen to this.
This is a drastic decision by a Northern California sheriff to suspend all patrol services during daytime hours. The Tehama County Sheriff says he does not have the deputies he needs to operate at full capacity.
And now the study mode is putting a spotlight on a growing hiring crisis in law enforcement agencies everywhere.
Everywhere. Law enforcement agencies everywhere. These police officers don't want to work these jobs anymore. Here it is. They working crazy hours. They working 16-hour shifts, 6 days a week, you know, dealing with crime, dealing with bugged out people, you know, and then if they do use, you know, excessive force, because Jake is off the hook, they do use excessive force, people is recording them and doing all these public bashing. So a lot of these police officers, they like, look, the pay ain't worth it. You know, I'm quitting. So now there's staffing shortages, and then you had the whole defunding the police. You know, a lot of police officers, you know, they're, you know, most of them wicked, but you know, there's some that try to, you know, really be out there for the community. You know, try to use balance. But you know, being a police officer now ain't what it was years ago, where it was a cushy job and it was great benefits. It was great to be a police officer. And, you know, every police officer has a stigma. Let's listen up.
Tehama County Sheriff daytime patrols on hold.
We are doing everything we can to ensure that this has the least amount of impact on public safety.
Sheriff Dave Henkrat sounding the alarm on a staff shortage crisis. He says he's had to move deputies from the streets to fill vacancies at the jail and courthouse, leaving him unable to fill 24-hour patrol services. The sheriff is now calling on the CHP to help.
We have many discussions with the Highway Patrol for responding to our life-threatening emergencies.
The sheriff blames his unfilled positions on low wages compared to other agencies.
Low wages. You know, things is costing a lot, man. People like, look, man, I'm not finna be busting my ass every day, working overtime, working 2 jobs, get paid, and then all my paycheck go back out to y'all and I'm back broke. You know, people have been dealing with that for years and years and years and years. People was getting fed up. People was like, man, look, to hell with it, you know. Meanwhile, when you go on social media, everybody's having a good time. Everybody's traveling. Everybody's buying stuff. You know, it's always, you know, fun and games and all this other stuff. But in reality, in the real world, people is going through all kind of economic and financial hardships, man.
This recruiting flyer is posted on the Tehama Sheriff's webpage, showing openings in a wide range of assignments from patrol to court bailiff. An independent national law enforcement research group issued a report this week showing of their members, more than 50% have fewer sworn staff than 5 years ago, more than 50% increases in retirements, more than 50% increases.
Look at that. Recruiting problem. So that's not just with this particular sheriff's agency in Northern California. All across the globe, all across the country, more than 50% have fewer sworn staff than 5 years ago. So the manpower and workforce is cut in half right now. Yeah, 50% increase in retirements. And you have 50% increase in resignation. So you have half of the workforce going into retirement, saying, fuck it, I'm just done with this. I'm ready to retire. And then you have half of the workforce quitting. Hey, man, I quit, man. I can't do this anymore, you know?
In resignations. The announcement to pause daytime patrols in Tehama County comes exactly 5 years after a mass shooting there that left 5 people dead. The shooter targeting Rancho Tehama Elementary School.
Bugged out,
students and teachers inside the classrooms. The sheriff says his pause on daytime patrols will begin on November 20th.
Yeah, that's next week. So what do you think criminals are going to think now that this information is out there? I'm hearing that the sheriffs, they not even patrolling during the daytime. And I heard that they're dealing with short staffing issues. So look, instead of us doing our crime at nighttime, we're gonna do it during the day. So this is from Renegade 2007. The worst idea ever. I would heavily focus on recruitment and try to train someone ASAP, but he obviously didn't read the whole or listen to the whole report because they said they're having a hard time recruiting people. Maybe lower the hiring requirements a little bit. So why would you do that? There's certain requirements and mental capacity and physical strength that you got to have when being a police officer. You don't want somebody that's overweight, weak-minded being a police officer. Says this is kind of ridiculous. I honestly believe you can find people. You just need to focus on it, recruitment, and pay more. But that's the problem. A lot of these jobs can't do that. They can't keep up with the inflation. Okay, so let's get a preset real quick because the prophecies speak about how people is going to be wilding out. Second Esdras 15. In 12, Egypt shall mourn. This is a code word for America. All right, America has different titles in the Bible. Egypt, spiritually Sodom, the land of the north. Okay, Babylon the great city, the whore. All right, not gonna find America in the Bible. So Egypt shall mourn, and that's what we're seeing. And it's starting off with people pockets, man. Economic hardships, and then people's going to start taking matters into their own hands. And the foundation, the structure of this place shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. So all the different things is happening because of the will of the Lord. So it's in your best interest to repent and convert and worship the true power, so that way you can receive a hedge of protection during this time. We're not giving all the credit to Esau. We know that the Lord ruleth in the kingdom of man. Daniel 4:17. And the Lord, which is the Father of spirits, he put those spirits out to fulfill what he wants done in the earth. So it's in your best interest to get right with the Most High, but we only know it's the elect that's going to return unto him in truth. Isaiah 10:20 on down. But verse 13, they that till the ground shall mourn, the farmers, the ranchers, they're selling off cattle and, different things to keep up with the growing financial pains that they're experiencing in their business. For their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, these different weather phenomenons. During the summer, certain areas in the Midwest, they were getting scorched with high temperatures and heat waves. So the crops wasn't yielding forth its increase, and they were suffering. And with the fearful consolation, they deal with the Farmer's Almanac, and the Almanac gives them insight on, the future in the farming. So they're receiving a fearful consolation, meaning things ain't looking good. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. And we seeing it, Meanwhile, you got all this entertainment and distractions and all this different stuff happening in the forefront, but in the background, the financial structure, the economic structure, the money, the inflation, real problems, it's just getting worse. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Woe is death and destruction, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. People's going to end up standing up. They're going to be fighting one another. Let a famine hit, and people out there standing in those long ass lines. You don't think people going to have weapons out there? You don't think people going to have guns and bats and, shotguns in the trunk just in case it pop off? And then emotions is going to be high, especially when you get in there and the meat is low. Only 2-3 water bottles per person. We got to make it stretch. People's going to feel betrayed by this government, and they're going to fight. People's gonna be forming little bands, little militias, little gangs. You know, we got to protect our city and our neighborhood. All that, man. You already see what they said about the police. You know, Northern California sheriffs halt the daytime patrol service due to staffing shortages. And when we went into this report,
More than 50%
you know,
increases in
there's a police staffing crisis. So it's not just here in California, it's all throughout Babylon the Great. They not having, you know, they experiencing 50% shortage of police officers. So people's going to be feeling like, look, man, we don't even got police officers out here. We got to defend ourselves. 16, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. People going in, breaking into houses, hitting licks, home invasions. You know, you already see it. Hey, ain't no police out here during the daytime. Shit, we finna hit these licks at night. I mean, during the day, we ain't hitting licks at night. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Talking about the people. People ain't gonna regard their kings, the presidents, the princes, the governors, the mayors, the politicians. All right, these people that's in, you know, political power. They're not gonna regard them because they're gonna feel betrayed. Oh, I have so much faith in this system and this economy, and I voted in the Constitution and all that. What about our rights? And as it says there, in the course of their actions shall stay in their power, because the people got the numbers. They got more people. They got the ammunition. They got the guns. That's why they was trying to take your guns away a couple of years ago, because they know this is going to happen. It says a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And when it's all hell breaking loose, people is going to want to go and travel to get out of this place, but they're not. There's going to be checkpoints, lockdown, shut down. Susan say it may be another pestilence. You can't come over here, you know. But because of their pride, they prideful in this American system and the comfort that it once gave. Now that comfort is being taken away. The city shall be troubled. That's how you know that this isn't talking about actual Egypt. It's talking about Babylon the Great. That's compacted of these major cities: Los Angeles, Sacramento, Vegas, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, Miami, Florida, you know, New York City, Ohio, you know, all these places, these metro, you know, great metropolitan areas that have a lot of people. It's going to get cracking. It shall be troubled. Jacob's trouble, or as our Lord Yahweh Shai spoke about it in Matthew, the 24th chapter, he spoke about tribulation. The houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. Houses are going to be destroyed. People are going to be running up in them houses looking for any type of resources: food, water, canned goods. Oh, we need some covers. We need some pillows. You know, we need all kind of stuff. And if men shall be afraid, what about women and children? And speaking of women and children, the next article we have over there in Africa, you have food insecurity or famine. This is Esau's political way of saying famine. Food insecurity is driving women in Africa into sex work, increasing HIV risk. So that's happening over there in Africa. Now, what about when it come to Babylon the Great, which is America? When that famine come over here, what you think these women is going to be doing over here? They're going to be doing the same thing, because that's going to be in a woman's nature. Oh man, I need this and that. Only thing I can offer is my mouth and my box. You know, it says the first time she traded sex for food to feed her family, Jay was 14 years old. Her father died when she was an infant, leaving her single mother to care for her and her 6 siblings in her native village in eastern Uganda. She soon gave birth to a baby girl, and her family continued to struggle to eat. So at 16, lured by a relative and the prospect of earning money as a maid, Jay left her baby behind and traveled 101 miles to the capital to find work so she could send money back home. We had nothing to eat, nothing to drink, nothing to feed the baby, to dress the baby, nothing. She told NPR, I thought when I was in the village that things are easy here in Kampala, that I will find peace. I will work. Then famine struck her village and her daughter became ill. The pressure was too high for me, she said. At that time in my mind, I could not resist anything. I need money to take care of my mama and the baby. She said Jay turned to sex work to make money. Jay's client were willing to pay more for sex without a condom, which let her send more money back home, but it also put her in a greater risk of contracting HIV. At 22, Jay tests positive. She asked NPR to refer to her by her first initial because of the stigma surrounding HIV and sex work. Many women and girls living with food insecurity in the sub-Saharan African face this dilemma. And you can, continue reading. So, hey, women, we read it. If men gonna be afraid, what about women? Women is gonna be terrified, and they're gonna be willing to do anything to get comfort, even selling themselves. So, bad news, which is good news for us because we know the time and season that we in. All right. And let's get some balance. We'll go to Isaiah 41 because although all this stuff is going on in the world, the Lord is going to look out for his elect. This is Isaiah 41:10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy power. I will strengthen thee. See, right now, the Lord is strengthening us with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Okay. Let's get a little precept real quick. The Lord is getting our minds right, entering into this time of trouble first. Okay. Understanding that the Lord is the one that's doing all this and putting these spirits on these individuals to do this and that. And the Lord has given us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to preserve us in these times and understand that, through this wisdom, ultimately us being of the elect, we're gonna be stable in these times. Proverbs 24:5, a wise man is strong. Yeah. A man of knowledge increases strength. So our strength, the Lord is strengthening us right now by way of this knowledge, this wisdom, the understanding, us knowing that we're going into these times. There's people that's out in the world right now thinking that things is going to get better. Things going to work itself out. No, things is getting worse. Yeah, I will help thee. So during the time of chaos, famine, tribulation, Esau coming down, great wrath, military personnel in your neighborhood, you're hearing family members getting put to death, pestilence and diseases grabbing hold of individuals. At the end of the day, the Lord is going to help us, though. Yeah, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Yahweh Shai is going to be leading the charge, helping us. Behold, all they that are incensed against thee shall be ashamed and confounded, because you're going to have, coming into this truth, to you newly tuning in, Akim, you're going to have imaginations against thee. You're going to have incredulity against thee. You're going to have people that's going to try to discredit this information. All right. Stand firm and believe, because at the end of the day, all these people who made light of the truth, that walk past the truth, made light of it, they're going to be ashamed and confounded. All these individuals that fought against us out there on the highways and the byways, the family members, your uncles, your aunties, your unks, your co-workers, all of them going to be confounded because they're going to be in these worst case scenarios out here. Meanwhile, the men of the Lord willing, we're a part of that number, we're going to be well taken care of. They shall be as nothing, and they that strive against thee shall perish. What does perish mean? That means die. Thou shalt seek them and not find them. Oh, I wonder what happened to such and such. I wonder, what happened to this person, that person. They're gonna all be found in bad conditions. Even them that contend with thee, they that war against thee shall be as nothing and a thing of naught. For I, Yahweh, thy power, hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, fear not, I will help thee. Fear thou not, thou worm Jacob. So this help is for Jacob. You get a lot of Christians, they try to post, this Isaiah 41:10. But when you read down a little bit, this promise is for Jacob, the Israelites. And it's starting off with, as it says here, and ye men of Israel. All right, the brothers out there on the highways and the byways. I will help thee, saith Yahweh, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. So Yahweh, through Yahweh Shai, is going to bring that help. Behold, I will make thee a sharp slakia. Behold, I will make thee a new sharp threshing instrument having teeth. The Lord is going to give his men spiritual power. We're going to be like Black Adam out here. We're going to be like Samson. We're going to be like David. All right. We're going to be like Yahushua, multiplying the elements and using the spiritual power, vanishing on people, disappearing. You people going to find out that there's more power in this earth than a damn gun. All right. All the stuff that you see in the DC movies and the Marvel movies and these superhero movies, where do you think they get the inspiration from? They get it from the scripts. How do you think David was able to go through tens of thousands? You read scriptures about one man going through 800. David leaping over walls. What do you think? You think he was jumping over little fences and little gates getting to the enemies? No, he was jumping over. He had power, man. Flying up on shit. Thou shalt thresh the mountains, these governments, and beat them small, and shall make the hills chaff. So we're going to blow these nations away. Thou shalt fan them, and the wind shall carry them, and the whirlwind shall scatter them. So it's going to be chariots, so-called UFOs. And now shall rejoice in Yahweh and shall glory in the Holy One of Israel. When the poor and needy seek water, this water is this truth. The poor is the Israelites that was, made to be on a poor state, lowly estate due to the curses. And there is none in their tongue faint for thirst, thirsty for the truth. I, Yahweh, will hear them. I, the power of Israel, will not forsake them. So the Lord has given us this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which is our strength. I will open rivers in high places. America is a high place. It's the exalted kingdom. And open rivers, that's abundance of waters. And that's coming out of the camps. Like Yahushua said in, John 7:38, he that believeth on me, as the scriptures have said, out of his belly, which means his mind, shall flow rivers of living water. So the Lord has opened up rivers in high places. You got the camps. You got the men of the Lord bringing out all this information. Then you got the sit downs and fountains of water in the valleys. America is the valley. When you read Ezekiel 37 chapter, it speaks about the valley of dry bones. The dry bones are Israelites. The valley is America. So the Lord opened up fountains, abundance of waters. I will make the wilderness, that's America, a pool of water. The camps, men of the Lord, and dry land, barren land, springs of water. So in this desolate place, this place that's gonna get destroyed, there's gonna be a life source for the Israelites, which is his truth. All right, you can continue reading on there. So there is balance. So the Lord is gonna continue to do a great work. All right, I think that's the last of the articles I had. Just to recap, you had food insecurity, famine happening in Africa, and women is driven to do sex acts in order to get food, and that's going to be done here in America. Are all these prideful and haughty women that was deceived by feminism and women empowerment and that whole independent black woman vibration? Well, y'all gonna eat the fruit of that, which is you're gonna be left without a man, left without a hedge of protection. Then Riverside Police says burglary rings is targeting homes citywide, which I didn't play this, but going into what we read in 2nd Esdras 15, the houses shall be destroyed. In the 16th verse, people gonna be invading one another. So people's gonna be hitting house licks, coming in there looking for food, jewelry, things to pawn off, guns, ammunition. Then the Northern California sheriffs halt daytime patrol services due to staffing shortages. And we went into that article how a lot of these police agencies throughout Babylon the Great is having a hard time getting recruits. What does that spell? More crime, more sedition, more anarchy. The Lord Yahushua said in Matthew the 24th chapter that the love of many shall wax cold. There's going to be a lot of crime out here. A lot of psychopaths out here doing wild shit. Then we went into the economic health. A lot of people are going delinquent on their auto loans. Why? Because things cost a lot of economic woes, a lot of financial problems happening in these households. All right. And it's all in the best interest of the elites to push out that CBDC, which they will then make that with the MOTB. All right, Revelation 13 on down, and then major corporations laying off their workforce. It's getting harder and harder for these companies to run their operations with having a large workforce. So therefore they got to trim the fat. So that sentiment is going to be happening a lot in these days that we coming into, man. We read it in Ecclesiastes 12. The grinding shall be few. So we entering into, what the scripts call Jacob's trouble. All right. So Lord willing, you are edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. And I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Kakwadash, and double honors to our elders and apostles of great millstone and tell us it's true. Shalom, Akim. Stay strong. Shalom.